what are you doing? What do you have to do when you're isolating? When I'm isolating for a letter, what do I have to do?
To inverse, to move every letters,
move everything, get rid of everything. And I have to get rid of everything by doing what?
inverse.
What do we call it? It's not opposite operation. Okay? There is inverse means something else, right? But I know it's inverse operation or opposite operation. Okay? To isolate, there you go. Moment. That's what I love. All right. Now, remember that whenever you're isolating, you want to leave the letter by itself. You have to follow the opposite operation. Okay? Now, I can look at this and then try to figure out with a fraction exponent, or I can write it in the radical form because we're used to the radical form, and try to isolate using the radical form. Okay? So let's write it in the radical form because I think it's easier to see the radical form. How would I write that as a radical form? Square root of to the power of 3, right? Now, you can write it as to the power of 3 here, or you can write it as power of 3 on the outside. Does not matter, right? No matter what order I follow in this case, it's going to end up being the same thing. Okay? So I have the square root of x to the power of 3 equals to negative 27. I haven't done anything yet. All what I've done is I rewrote it in a radical format. That's it. Now, here's the question. What do you want to get rid of first? The root. Let's get rid of the root first. How do you get rid of the root? What's the opposite of root? So, root, what's the opposite operation of that? Squares. These are opposite operations. You're going to know this like you know how to write your names. Okay? Opposite operation, plus, minus, multiplication, division, square, square root, cube, cube root. These are things that you have to know. Okay? So the opposite operation of square root is square. Right? So I have to, they cancel each other. Right? So to get rid of that square root, I have to square. When I square, I have to square both sides. Are we okay with that? So when I do whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. Okay? Now, if you did the cube root first, that's fine. You're going to end up with the same answer. So don't worry about it. All right. Now, I'll show you the other way. So what happened here is the square root and the square cancel each other. And you ended up with x to the power of 3 equals to, what's negative 27 to the power of 2?
17.
What is it?
17.
7, 3,
729.
2, 9. Sorry. Now I have x cubed equals 729. What's the opposite of cube? Cube root. So now I have to cube root both sides. And when I cube root both sides, what do I end up with? X equals 9. Right? Now here's another way, right? If you are thinking about if you want to do this first, sorry. So you might have done this first, right? You want to get rid of the cube, then you cube root first, right? Cube root, and that gets rid of the cube, and that's going to give you square root of x equals negative 3, or sorry, negative 3, right? And then the opposite of square root is square, so you square both sides, and that gives you 9, right? Either way is fine. Okay. What am I doing here? What are the two operations that I'm doing? I'm squaring and I'm cube rooting. Right? These are the two operations I'm doing. I'm squaring and I'm cube rooting. So look what I did. So So I have the negative 27. I'm squaring negative 27, and I'm cube rooting it. How can I write this as a rational format?
27 to the power of 2.
2 over 3, right? 2 over 3. Now look back here. It's x to the power of 3 over 2. What I'm doing is, I'm doing to the power of 2 over 3. 3 over 2, 2 over 3. What's 3 over 2 times 2 over 3, guys? 1. Right? And my whole idea is I want to get rid of that exponent, right? I have to do the opposite operation, right? So the whole idea is to leave x as x to the power of 1, right? To do to the power of 1, I have to multiply by the reciprocal, right? But this is step by step. I personally like step by step. I personally like to show my work and understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing this, right? But the shortcut to this is if you have the exponent, you want to get rid of the exponent, you raise it to the inverse, basically, right? Because what happened is if I multiply the exponent to the exponent, if I multiply these two, they're going to end up being 1, right? And that's the whole idea of it, right? If I'm looking at this one, right? If you want to write it in a radical form, how would you write that as a radical? Cube root of x to the power of 1. What do you want to do? Remember, I'm isolating for x. What do you want to get rid of first? Doesn't matter. You can get rid of the cube root or you can get rid of the square. Right? Doesn't matter. In this case, order doesn't matter, and that's the first time I'm going to say that. The order is not going to matter. Okay? So if you want to get rid of the square first, what do you have to do? What's the opposite of square? Square root. Right? So the first thing I want to do is I want to square root both sides. Right? So if I square root both sides, that gets rid of my square. Right? So I'll be done. I'll be just cube root of x equal to, what's the square root of 64? 60? No. What's the square root of 64? 8. Now you have cube root of x equals to 8. So what's x equal to? What do you do to find x? What do I do? Cube root? Cube it. Cube it. Raise it to the power of 3 because the opposite of cube root is cube. They cancel each other, and I'll be left with x equals, what is that? What's 8 cubed? Huh? 514? Thank you. Okay? You're following the opposite operation step by step. I want you guys to start, like, when I say opposite of square root. Like, I want you to be, like, it's like, spell your name for me. This is the same thing. This is how it's supposed to become. All right, let's go over that last question, and I'll give you time to do your homework, okay? Yeah. What is that? Okay. That sounds like about right.
Yeah, it's closest. Well, you
compounding an initial investment of $700 grows to $900 in 5 years. Determine the annual interest rate, I, so you're gonna find I, using the compound formula A equals P 1 plus I to the power. Now, let's define a few of these numbers. A represents the final amount, right? A is your final amount. P represents initial. Yeah, so A is final. We call P the principal. Right? So principal, that means initial amount. I'm looking for I. That's my interest rate. That's the rate that I'm looking for. So my final is 900. My initial is 7. And N represents the number of compounding period, or the number of years in this case, because I'm looking at an annual, right? So that means N is 5. Okay? So if I'm looking at this, I have to input my numbers. A is 900. P is 700. 1 plus I to the power of. What do you want to do first? Do you want to isolate for I? Remember that we're doing isolation. Isolation means?
Get rid of all of that.
Yes, get rid of everything with the I, and that by doing what? Opposite operation following reverse. All right. So what do you want to do first?
Divide by 700.
Divide by 700 first. That's right. Because remember that when I was isolating for my equations, right? The first thing I want to get rid of in this case is the multiplication, right? So bring the multiplication over as a division. So that's going to be 900 divided by 700. 1 plus I to the power of 5. What do you want to do after that?
An exponent. Get rid of exponent.
Yes, get rid of the exponent, right? To get rid of the exponent, I have to do
Fifth root.
fifth root. So that is going to get rid of the 5. So I have the fifth root of 900 over 700. You can't find what 900 over 700 is, but leave to like few many decimal place. And what will be your last step?
Isolate the I by
So-
moving the 1.
Yeah, and
So
I move it
negative
as a minus. Yeah. So I'm subtracting. And my last step is I need to this over, and that's going to be the fifth root of 900 over 700 minus 1 equals 2I. What did you get?
I rounded it to 0.05.
So 0.052.
Or 5. There's a 5 after it.
It's, so that's 0.052. Which is, because we're talking about interest rate, it should be in percentage, right? So that's going to be 5.2%. By doing what? Like what do you mean by?
Guessing interest from 0.5.
Oh.
Still works.
Yeah, no.
Hey, it's the right answer.
It works if it's like, if you have, because you have too many different options, right? It's gonna be tough. Right? Yeah, but you need to know that,
Yeah.
all right? Isolation. What? How are we feeling about this?